President Biden's campaign chair says they are not going to focus on Donald Trump's legal troubles, but ABC host Martha Raddatz pushed back. Take a look at this.
As Trump's motorcade was pulling into the Fulton County jail, President Biden sent out a fundraising pitch saying, apropos of nothing, I think today's a great day to give to my campaign. Are Trump's legal problems going to be part of your campaign against him?
No. Those emails go out, you get 5 and 6 of them a day. So I wouldn't read much into that.
Even though it was the day of the Fulton County jail, okay?
Well, the president has said from the beginning that he wanted an independent Justice Department, and we have just that. So we're not going to comment. We're not going to focus on Donald Trump's legal problems.
Well, Joe Concha joining me now. Joe, first of all, I have to give credit to Martha Raddatz. She pushed back twice on that because it was so clear this fundraising thing went out. It even made mention to this being a special day, a special moment, just when former President Trump was being booked in Georgia. I mean, it's clear what he was saying was a bunch of bull, right?
That's exactly the word I used, except I added something to that, David. But this is a family show, so we're not going to share what that was, because I hadn't seen that clip until you just played it. Yeah, it's complete BS. Obviously, it went out the same day that Trump was booked in Fulton County. This is the entire campaign that we're going to hear going into 2024, David, which is Donald Trump is bad. He probably should be in jail. Vote for us. Not anything is going to be mentioned as far as the media is concerned, for the most part. There are exceptions, obviously. But as far as how's the economy doing? Well, 7 in 10 people think that the economy is poor. 18% of people think that they're satisfied with the direction of the country. Crime is spiraling out of control in cities from San Francisco to Chicago to New York, where people are now moving out and moving to red states. They can't run on that. They can't run on the border, which now 7 million people have crossed into this country illegally. They can't run on education because ACT test scores are at a 30-year low. They can't run on foreign policy because the Ukraine war appears to be an endless money drag as far as us giving tens of billions of dollars to the Ukrainians with no real strategy as far as is there an end game here in any way, shape, or form. You just talked about China with KT as far as their position there. So on every major issue that people care about, the Biden campaign can't run on that. Instead, it's going to be look over there at Donald Trump and look at that courthouse. That's basically the campaign.
But I'm just wondering, I mean, again, Martha Raddatz maybe is the exception here, Raddatz, excuse me. But she did push back, and it was very encouraging to see that happen twice in that interview, no?
Absolutely. And it should happen more. I should be seeing Biden officials on Meet the Press, on NBC, for example, being challenged on these things and on their record, more importantly, or on CBS or on CNN or on MSNBC. So when we're talking about this as if it's a great thing, well, it should be the rule, not the exception, David, right?
I understand.
On both sides, by the way, Trump and Biden.
Speaking of pushback, Vivek Ramaswamy is not afraid to push back against the mainstream media, and he holds his own. Watch this interview with Chuck Todd yesterday on NBC.
Okay. First of all, you never talked about the tech stuff in your book. This is a new thing. It is
that's false, Chuck.
You have not talked about this Hunter Biden
in Nation of Victims
aspect of it. We were looking
Chuck,
for it.
I think you have not. I think you have not read Nation. I think you have not read Nation of Victims. Literally read the book. There was about 20 pages of content devoted to this.
You know, he doesn't hold back. He faces the issue because a lot of times when Republicans are hit by the media with these gotcha questions, they try to find a way of getting around it. He hits it head on, and the interviewer doesn't know exactly where to go.
And Chuck Todd certainly didn't there when he actually had substantial pushback against him. That sound you just heard, by the way, is Tim Russert rolling over in his grave because he used to challenge, as we just talked about, both sides and not with questions like that. And Chuck Todd is retiring soon from Meet the Press, and it can't come soon enough. But to your point around Vivek Ramaswamy, there's a reason why he is the one with momentum in the polls right now. Obviously not close to Donald Trump, but certainly gaining momentum. He's now at double digits. He very much, if he's not the nominee, and odds are still that he will not be, that I think Donald Trump is giving him a long, hard look as far as being his possible number two, his running mate, because he's just like Trump in terms of being an outsider, never in politics before, successful in business.
An outsider who's willing to take on, who's, by the way, self-sufficient, who doesn't have to rely on politics to make his money, but who actually pushes back against the media. It's only those two guys that I've seen do it recently. it's refreshing when you see it. Joe, it's
DeSantis,
always
too, to a certain extent.
It's refreshing to see you as well. Joe Concha on this Monday morning. Good to see you. Thank you very much.